Hello, Alex here. I'm in a park in Tbilisi, as is often the case with these daily videos. And in keeping with the daily challenge of putting out content, here I am again, showing up to discuss a new topic that we can think about together as a group. And today's topic of discussion is going to be the interesting dynamic between avoiding reality and avoiding things that make us feel uncomfortable and nervous and scared and bored and frustrated and all the other negative associations that we have with facing reality and confronting those things that make us a little bit uncomfortable, and running to stimulation, various forms of stimulant, whether it be caffeine, watching TV, Netflix, even travel, sugar, carbohydrates. All these things, I think, play an important role in our avoidance of what is real. And I think it's an interesting one, because I think stimulation is very closely linked to our need to escape. So rather than escaping to something low intensity, we always inevitably escape to some kind of a stimulation. So if we feel bored, we go off and we watch porn, or we watch TV, or we drink coffee, and we become avoidant. So it's this sort of cyclical loop that happens, whereby when we are highly stimulated, we end up becoming even more avoidant. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you are jacked up on coffee, you are much less likely to take on anxiety-provoking reality situations. This has been the case for me, so this is why I'm talking about this, because it's very interesting. And so how do we start confronting those things we need to confront in life? Because as I always say, taking on reality is our greatest source of power, our greatest source of momentum, success, and achievement. And I think a lot of us, with all these distractions and stimulations around us and the endless supply of incredible stimulants, it's very easy to make the decision, rather than to go head on into doing things in real time that are going to help us, are going to expand us. We choose the route of least resistance, which is the stimulation, the stimulant. And to counteract that and to start doing things we need to do, we need to think about how hooked we are on various stimulants and how we can address stimulation, mainly artificial stimulation, obviously, is what I'm talking about, to start embracing reality a bit more and start finding success again in those areas that we have been previously avoiding. And so coffee, TV, all those things that we run along to are actually forms of avoidance. And when you look at the effects of stimulants, it's an interesting one, because it tends to, and the science backs this up in many cases, stimulation tends to make us use our endorphins and our endorphins, or whatever it is, some kind of neurotransmitters get fired artificially. When you watch a lot of TV, you're in this new world, you play video games, your endorphins, your dopamine is spiking. I think that's what I mean, dopamine. It gets spiked and it becomes run down. Your synapses, you'll need to read into this into more depth just to confirm I'm not talking complete trash, but your dopamine can become overused and overstimulated. And of course, this leads to crashes, and it leads to a tiring of your dopamine receptors. And it means that when you do come to face reality, everything kind of gets dumbed down. You start to find less interest in nature, in the colors, sights and sounds around you, because you have had your dopamine used up, fully charged. And this is a problematic thing, I think, because when we are able to enjoy nature and enjoy reality and enjoy the flow of life and enjoy being around other people and facing truth, facing reality, it's a lot easier to do that when we are open to it, and when we can enjoy it, and when we can sense use our senses and be sensory. And I think a lot of us, you know, when we face something we don't want to do, we get this overwhelming sense of boredom or some kind of frustration. It's because we might be numbed to the reality of what we're facing. I'm just going on a bit of a free flow here. It's not a very structured discussion, and I'm sure many of you have counter arguments, but just think about your use of stimulation and how it can lead to avoidance, and how avoidance can lead back to stimulation. It's a sort of a cyclical loop that I think we have to be careful about engaging in. And as we move forward into this new world of technology and being introduced to a huge range of artificial stimulants, be careful that you're not avoiding what you need to be doing because of the negative feelings that are associated with doing things in reality and running to stimulations to escape. And in doing so, you're going to grind your dopamine receptors down, you're going to become more numb to reality, and you're going to find facing reality even harder. So be aware of that loop. This is something that I've been thinking of a lot because, you know, I drink a lot of coffee, you know, I can watch a lot of TV, a lot of YouTube videos, and yeah, like any of us, we like to escape. But I think the alternative to living in an avoidant and high stimulus life is the opposite. It's to live a low stimulant and engaged life, a life that involves action. I know that I talk a lot about action a lot, but I think it's untalked about. A lot of people try to skirt around the reality when really we have to be doing things and we have to be acting in truth and reality. And you'll find it a lot easier, like I have, whenever I've quit caffeine for a while or I've quit quit sugar, your body starts to adapt again to how it's supposed to be. And you start to find being in reality, being in nature, being around people, facing supposedly or perceived stressful situations, they become a lot easier because your body's calmer, it's not jacked up on stimulants, you're more connected to the world around you, your dopamine is sort of fresh and running as it should be, your serotonin levels start to improve, you don't get these ups and down crashes that stimulation brings on, and you start to welcome reality. You start to enjoy just being with nature and being with, you know, whatever it is that's in front of you. You might have to write an article, or you might have to paint a picture. If you've been jacked up on Netflix all week and you're high on cocaine, high on coffee, whatever it is that you're stimulating, I mean, even drugs, yes. All these things that we're being force-fed and told to think is the way it's done and is normality. It's really not. We need to go back to nature, and we need to start dealing with what feels like an intense reality, which it shouldn't be. It should be something that we look forward to. And obviously nothing's going to be easy, but things will be a lot easier when we're low stimulant. So think about what kinds of stimulations you're using, not only as a way to avoid reality, but as a way to, in a fake way, make you feel better. But it's actually causing you to crash, and you've probably been through this. When you've been through something high stimulus, you end up kind of having that crash, and it makes you feel even worse. And it's making you more avoidant because you're anxious and you're jacked up and you're not in flow with nature and reality and just, you know, tasks that need to be done. This might seem a bit rambly today. I am making an extra effort to put something out today, and I thought this was an interesting topic because I'm in a process now of de-stimulating myself a bit and finding it very helpful, starting to enjoy just the process of walking through a park without needing endless stimulants, and you start to feel more hopeful, you start to feel that optimism. I'm going to expand on this on other videos. I'm aware that my window is counting down. Let me know what you think in the comments, and do subscribe, all that stuff. Like this if you liked it, and make sure you stay followed, and I'll talk to you soon.